I've entitled this Invisible Warriors. Some of them are here in this room right now. I started out the week asking the Lord to help me know what to present. And toward the end of the week, in our morning worship, I read this sentence. I call upon the ministers of Christ to press home upon the understanding of all who come within the reach of their voice the truth of the ministration of angels. That sounds like a pretty strong command. And so I decided that must be my topic for today, to call your attention to some of the aspects of the work of angels. We're familiar, if we read our Bible, we are familiar with the fact that angels are busy helping us. For instance, when sin first came in, it was very dangerous if Adam and Eve could still eat of the tree of life. But an angel was stationed at the gate so they could not get back in, and no one else could get in, protecting them, even though it seems like it was a sad event, but it was, under the circumstances, a real blessing to have that angel there. Then we find in the story of Abraham that one day he saw 3 strangers walking near his tent. 2 of them were angels. And those angels went on to visit Lot in Sodom. The third one was Jesus, and Jesus talked to Abraham. But the angels went on, and Lot was very hospitable. So when they came in the front gate, he invited them to his house, and what a blessing those angels were at his house. Although the people of Sodom were bent on sexually molesting the angels. Of course, they didn't know they were angels. But instead, they ended up being blinded, and Lot was taken out of Sodom, led by the angels who had been sent to save him. And then in the New Testament, we find that Zacharias was working in the sanctuary, and all of a sudden an angel appeared and explained to him that he was going to have a son. And he was to name him John the Baptist. And everyone knows the story of Peter. He was led out of prison through locked doors by an angel. And the doors were still locked after he was out. And they didn't discover that he was gone until they went looking for him in the morning. Well, there's a lot more stories we could refer to in the Bible. But there are 3 texts I want to read that are about angels. John 1, verse 51, referring back to the dream that Jacob had. And he saith unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto you, hereafter ye shall see heaven open, and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. So Jacob saw that ladder that rested where he was and went up to heaven, and he saw those angels going up and down that ladder. The ladder represented Jesus, because if it wasn't for what Jesus did by coming to this earth and dying for us, then the angels couldn't come to earth and help us.
Amen.
But because of what he did, they are used by God to bring many, many blessings to us. And then in Hebrews 13, verse 2, it says, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers." Suppose Lot had not invited those angels home. They didn't even make it easy. They said, "Don't worry, we'll just stay in the street tonight." They knew what would go on if they stayed in the street, but they were testing Lot. And he said, "Oh no, you need to come home with me." So be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. So, hospitality's been dying out of the Adventist church, unfortunately. Here, though, we have a fellowship meal every week,
Amen.
so no one has to go away wondering where they're going to eat.
Amen.
But in some churches, you can go and, you don't have any place to eat. And if you didn't bring your lunch, you might go without lunch. But if we really pay attention to this text, we're going to invite strangers, because sometimes it's an angel. It's an angel. We don't know it. And even if it's not an angel specifically, it might be, well, it will be somebody that has an angel with them. I remember two pictures that made a deep impression on my mind as a boy. One was a picture of an angel hovering over a small child that was in great danger. The child didn't know that they might fall off the cliff or whatever. I don't remember the exact danger they were in, but they were in danger. And another one that I saw was a picture of a colporteur. And the colporteur is going house to house to sell our books. And beside that colporteur is an angel. Those two pictures made a big impression on my mind. The third text is in Hebrews 1:14, where it's comparing Jesus and the angels along with humanity and all. But referring to the angels, it says, "Are they not all ministering spirits sent forth to minister for them who shall be heirs of salvation?" Just think about it. How many times this past week did you think about the angels that rescued you from something? Probably many of you went all week and you never thought about the angel. That's why God says pastors are negligent if they don't talk about angels, and help us to really realize the ministry of these angels that are going up and down, constantly observing what our needs are, protecting us, and we're going to read some about that as we go on. The book we actually just finished this week was Christ Triumphant. And so here was another part of what I read. Heavenly beings are appointed to answer the prayers of those who are working unselfishly for the interests of the cause of God. So if you're working for God, you are a top priority for the angels. They are going to pay attention to your prayers. And of course, they wait on what God tells them to do. But you can be assured that an angel will be sent, or how many ever are needed, to answer that prayer. The very highest angels in the heavenly courts are appointed to work out the prayers that ascend to God for the advancement of the cause of God. So there are angels with more power than others, just like humans, are different from one another, but the highest angels are the ones that are given the task of answering our prayers when we're asking for God's work to be able to advance and to go forward. Then it says, each angel has a particular post of duty and is not permitted to leave for any other place. So it's all worked out where each angel needs to be, and they cannot go to some other place. If an angel should leave, the powers of darkness would gain an advantage. So the devil would win if an angel neglected their post of duty. What about us? Does the devil win sometimes because we abandon our post of duty? It's very important that we follow God's instructions just like the angels do. Fortunately, they're faithful and they do exactly as God asked them to do. Even if they would prefer something else, they stay with what they were assigned to do. In the second volume of Spiritual Gifts, 277, God knows how Satan is working and sends his angels to watch over his children to protect them from the devil's power. So just contemplate sometime what the devil could do to you if you didn't have this help. And the battle is constantly going on between the angels of God and the devil's angels. So here is a battle that would destroy us if we did not have the protection of the angels. But the angels are being faithful to fight against the devil's angels. And fortunately, God's angels are way stronger than the devil's.
Amen.
And so they always win unless they're not there. But they're there. They make sure they're there, so they win. The angels of God are clothed with a complete armor, the panoply of heaven. And although surrounded with deadly foes, fear nothing. Doesn't that mean we don't have to fear anything? If they're not afraid of the devil and his hosts, then we don't have to be afraid because they're there. For they are doing the will of their loved commander. So if we're doing God's will, we have nothing to fear. And the angels are faithful to God's will, so they have nothing to fear. They are constantly driving away the forces of the enemy so that we can stay alive and accomplish what God needs us to do.
Amen.
Are the devil's angels happy about it? No. They enter the darkest places, these are God's angels, to rescue the children of God from the snares of Satan. So when they see someone, we heard a beautiful story last night in Vespers of evidence that angels came a number of times before Brian ever thought of following God, and they did amazing things for him. So what it says here happens more often than we think. And their presence causes the evil angels to fall back. So once the heavenly angel arrives, the devil's angels leave them alone. And as the evil angels are defeated, they utter terrible imprecations against the injustice of God and against his angels. So I can picture the devil's angels swearing, like a lot of people do. And calling God's name in vain, blasting the fact that he sent the angel to deliver that person, but it doesn't faze the good angels at all.
That's a good reason not to swear.
Yeah.
Become like the evil angels.
That's right. You don't want to be like them. In the fourth volume of B section of Spiritual Gifts, page 104, I saw evil angels contending for souls and angels of God resisting them. The conflict was severe. So we get the idea this is not a mock battle. It's a real battle.
Amen.
More real than people do with guns and rockets and all that. But the good angels always win. The conflict was severe. Evil angels were crowding about them, corrupting the atmosphere with their poisonous influence and stupefying their sensibilities. You know, when I read that part, I remembered a couple of months ago I had a period of real discouragement because I was in such bad condition in my breathing. And I hadn't read this at that time, and so it wasn't fresh in my mind. But as soon as I started talking about the power of God, that depressive atmosphere left.
Amen.
It went away. And so apparently there are times when people are being influenced by the devil's angels and they don't know it. But if we wake up to it, we can get rid of them. So the evil angels were crowding about them, corrupting the atmosphere with their poisonous influence and stupefying their sensibilities. Holy angels were anxiously watching these souls and were waiting to drive back Satan's host. But it is not the work of good angels to control minds against the will of the individuals. Now, Satan's angels don't mind influencing us and hurting us against our will. But God's angels won't do that. So they have to know we want them to come and help us. But as soon as we ask for them to help us, they're right there to get rid of that influence, that corrupting influence that Satan's angels are bringing to us. Early Writings, page 39, I have seen the tender love that God has for his people, and it is very great. I saw angels over the saints with their wings spread about them. How many things did we get protected from? You know, we sometimes see close calls. We see almost an automobile accident, but we're spared. But there are many of them we don't even come close. We're not even aware. We have been delivered from a serious danger. Why were we delivered? Because the angels put their wings over us and we were protected. Then it says, each saint had an attending angel. If the saints wept through discouragement or were in danger, the angels that ever attended them would fly quickly upward to carry the tidings, and the angels in the city would cease to sing. Wow, they care that much? When an angel comes up and tells them what struggle we're having, what difficulties we're having, they stop singing and they sympathize with our need. But that isn't all that happens. Then Jesus would commission another angel to descend, to encourage, watch over, and try to keep them from going out of the narrow path. But they did not take heed to the watchful care of these angels and would not be comforted by them, but continued to go astray. The angels would look sad and weep. So that discouragement has to be recognized. Why? Why is that there? It's because the devil's angels have come around us and they're trying to break our connection. But when the good angels come, in answer to our prayer to get rid of the evil angels, then they come and we're not discouraged anymore.
Amen.
Now, of course, there are physical causes for some discouragement, so we know those have to get corrected. But a lot of the discouragement and, heaviness that we get into is simply the devil's angels trying to break us. So you can see how much all of heaven cares, and the angels are the agents that especially are the agents to come down and give us the help. Now the future, it's even more important that we know this than the past. Because in manuscript 72, 1904, it says, "Until the controversy is ended, the struggle will go on between wicked angels and wicked men on the one side, and holy angels and true believers on the other. The battle that is raging will grow fiercer as the end approaches." So it's more and more important that we recognize the work of the angels, that we ask God for the ministry of the angels when we need it. And especially they're interested in protecting us against the devil and his angels, protecting us from failure in God's work, protecting us from not being able to carry out the work he's given us to do. And they're not far away. They're right there, but they don't work unless we see our need and we're willing for them to work. And here is the final battle before the close of probation. Early Writings 2:70. "I saw angels of God hasten to the assistance of all who are struggling with all their power to resist the evil angels and trying to help themselves by calling upon God with perseverance." And this is in reference to victory over sin, in reference to finishing the work that God has given us to do, that some, not everyone, but some are eager to gain all these victories, and as a result, angels are sent to help them. But his angels left those who made no effort to help themselves, and I lost sight of them. So they lost their way because they weren't receiving the benefits of the angels. Now, of course, God has his part, the Holy Spirit has his part, Jesus has his part. They're all involved, but the part that we're least aware of is what the angels do. And it's important that we know and make use of that precious gift that he's given.
Amen.
And just as an example of how powerful is an angel, we're told that that time when Elisha looked at this huge army, and his servant got so scared that in the morning, 185,000 soldiers were dead. And all it took was one angel to do that. So there is incredible power available through the ministry of the angels. And that power is for victory over sin as well as anything else. But when probation closes, nobody can gain any more victories. It's over. And so there's two groups of people. There are those that are realizing the danger, and they are willing to receive and benefit from the ministry of the angels, and there's some that are careless and they're not getting the benefit. Those will not be ready when the close of probation comes. So that's pretty serious thought, not to make us give up, but to make use of the angels. Now here's a few short thoughts I found that tell us about some of their work. Again, from Christ Triumphant 368. Those who would find themselves under the protection of the angels of God must live holy for God's glory, prepared to stand in their lot and in their place. So this full benefit, now angels help even people who haven't done that, but the full benefit of the ministry of the angels are for those that put God's work first. And that doesn't mean you have to work in an Adventist institution, but wherever you are, you're trying to put His work first. You're trying to minister to the people that are there. You're trying to share the light that you have. And people that make that work first, they're the ones that get the full benefit of what the angels are able to do. Historical Sketches 156. If we could only see the many dangers from which we are daily preserved by the holy angels, instead of complaining of our trials and misfortunes, we would talk continually of the mercies of God. Wow, I felt convicted about any complaining I ever did when I read that. How many have complained this week about something that you had to go through? When we do, it shows we are not aware of all the things that didn't happen. If we hadn't had the help of the angels, we think we may have it hard, but we would have had it way harder. And so, all complaining by those that really get what we're talking about today, they really get it, not just in theory, but in practice, then you will never complain again. You will just be praising God that it's no worse. That it could have been a lot worse than what it was. Instead of complaining of our trials and misfortunes, we would talk continually of the mercies of God. If it were not for the constant guardianship of these angels, we would not be able to live on the earth and present truth. So you couldn't even be alive if it wasn't for the ministry of the angels. You couldn't share anything about truth and get away with it unless the ministry of the angels was present in your life. So that alone should cause a lot of continual praise for the mercies and the care, not only of God, but of His angels.
Amen.
in a manuscript 47, 1908, in times of discouragement, there are evil angels by our side. But angels of heaven are also with us. And, notice this part, and as soon as we strike a note of praise to God, his angels shed their light about us, and the evil angels are driven back. So as long as we keep complaining and being discouraged, the evil angels are allowed to stay there. But as soon as we realize that's a mistake, we need to praise for the good things that we've been protected from. As soon as we do that, then the good angels push the devil's angels out. And we don't have any more trouble from them until we get careless again. Here's a wonderful promise from the Review and Herald of August 14, 1888. If you will try to suppress every evil thought through the day, then the angels of God will come and dwell with you. So their work is to help your desire be fulfilled. And if you keep that desire all through the day, that you don't want to let any evil thoughts stay in your mind, you know, that's where the evil deeds come from, leaving them in there too long until we think it's attractive, and then we do it. So if we are eager to suppress all those evil thoughts, then the angels will be right there to make it a success. Then we will be able to resist all of those. If you want to make an angel happy, Review and Herald of January 26, 1911. It is the greatest joy of the angels in heaven to spread the shield of their tender love over the souls who turn to God. So the thing that makes them the happiest is when somebody wants their protection. And as soon as the person wants their protection, they really get happy. It says it's their greatest joy. Their love for those for whom Christ died is beyond measurement. So we think of God's love, we think even more of Jesus' love, but now we can think about how much we're loved by the angels. It's beyond measurement. And interestingly enough, I found this one, manuscript 6, 1886. God's angels are in this very congregation. Well, that was said on a certain occasion, but that is true of every time we get together, that God's angels are in this very congregation. And I'm glad we don't leave a lot of front rows empty in this church. But, you know, someone made the observation that when a church leaves empty pews in the front, that's where the devil's angels sit. And so they hinder the congregation from getting the blessing. But nobody can be hindered if you're having the angels of God around you. Manuscript 186, 1907. Now we can see that there is a power for us. For there are angels, abundance of angels, if you will only recognize that there are angels of God, and when you are in a straight place, if you look right to the Lord for help, you will have it. When I read that, I thought of Jesus' statement. You remember? He said, if I want it, I can get 12 legions of angels. 12,000 angels will come to help me. Well, he was human, so are we. So there's 12,000 angels available on any occasion that you may be in a tight spot where you need help. And, you know, the stories abound about people that have been delivered in impossible situations. This one was written especially for young people. And, I forget the whole title, but it was written to a young person. But it's good for all of us. Page 55, AY. Jesus will send his angels to guard you and protect you from the evil angels and will make it easy for you to do right. Is anyone interested in it being easy to do what's right? Well, that's part of the work of the angels, to make it easy to do what's right. So many people, down deep, they want to do what's right, but somehow they can never do it. Why? They don't know about what the angels can do. But we need to tell them about the ministry of angels. And protect you from the evil angels, and will make it easy for you to do right. Then it will be much easier than if you should try in your own strength. That's a waste of effort, to try in your own strength. Call for God's help and he'll send the angels, and you will be able to find it easy to do what's right. Well, there's more. I found there were 28,000 references to angels, but that's just a few of the things I discovered. So I hope from this time on that your awareness of the ministry of angels will be keen, and you'll remember this sermon. We'll have our closing song.